The Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra is here, packing the best camera that Samsung has ever put into a phone. But how does it stack up against its main rivals, the iPhone 13 Pro and the Google Pixel 6 Pro? Let's find out. The Galaxy S22 Ultra is Samsung's latest flagship phone, packing an incredible processor, a glorious big display, and of course that S Pen stylus lifted from the Galaxy Note range. But it's also got a hefty camera setup on the back, packing a 108 megapixel main sensor, an ultra-wide lens, and two telephoto zoom lenses, offering zoom levels up to 10 times optical. The S22 Ultra has already proven itself to be one of the best camera phones out there, but then so are the iPhone 13 Pro and the Google Pixel 6 Pro, both of which can take stunning shots in daylight and at nighttime. So, to see which phone actually takes the best photos, I hit the streets of Edinburgh walking until my feet were aching and my shoes filled with blood, just to see which phone is best. You're welcome. All the shots you'll see here have been taken in JPEG format using the standard camera modes unless otherwise stated. So let's dive in. The iPhone is not off to a great start in this first test, with its shot looking quite cold and dark, certainly not as nice as the shots taken from the S22 Ultra and the Pixel 6 Pro. There's little to choose between the two Android images, as both shots have got much nicer color balances and they're packed with plenty of detail. All three phones have done a great job capturing plenty of detail inside this shopping centre, but the S22 Ultra has taken things further, capturing much better highlights in that sky outside. It's managed to capture a much more vibrant blue in that sky without sacrificing any of the highlights and tones within the building itself. That's some good HDR right there. Switching to the super wide lens, the iPhone shot hasn't really changed at all, still with that completely white washed out sky overhead. But both the S22 Ultra and Pixel 6 Pro have captured much nicer looking shots, maintaining that vibrant blue sky overhead. Moving back outside to this lovely street scene, and those colour differences are much more noticeable in the strip of blue sky above the buildings. In the S22 Ultra's shot, that blue sky has been given an almost cyan-looking tint, whereas on the iPhone 13's, it's much more natural with a rich, vibrant blue. The overall exposure and contrast and details are pretty much on a par on all three shots, but for colour balance and colour accuracy alone, I'd have to call this one a win for the iPhone. Shooting the same scene with the ultra-wide lenses, the S22 Ultra's again doesn't look quite as accurate, but I do like that warmer, lighter tone on the building. At 3 times optical zoom, the S22 Ultra and iPhone 13 Pro shots are vibrant and packed with detail, but I do think I prefer the iPhone shot because that green door does have a bit more depth of colour. The Pixel 6 Pro has a 4 times optical zoom, so it can get a bit closer up than the iPhone, and I think the Pixel shot here is superb with great exposure and great clarity. But of course, it is the zoom where the S22 Ultra really plays its trump card. It takes that optical zoom up to 10 times, which blows the competition out of the water. Here I've been able to get much closer up on this scene, and while there is again a little bit of a shift in those colours, I love the shot overall. It's got plenty of detail and a great exposure overall. And the more I shoot, the more clear it is that the S22 Ultra's zoom is the thing that sets it apart completely from its rivals. It gives you a view that you just cannot get on other phones, and sure, you might not want to use it all the time, but I really do like using it when I find a scene that calls for it. I'm a photographer myself, and having that big zoom lens is basically the same as carrying a big telephoto zoom on a DSLR. It allows you to find compositions in the scene that your friends with their wide-angle lenses simply will not be able to shoot. I've used it here to get this glorious shot overlooking the suburb of Leith with the snow-capped hills in the background. And then in this view of Edinburgh's Salisbury Crags, where I've been able to fill the frame with the rocky outcrop using the S22 Ultra, while the iPhone and Pixel just show the crags as a distant bit of geology. And of course, you can use that 10x optical zoom for video as well. And again, it's great to be able to find new angles when you're out shooting video, rather than just using a wide angle lens and trying to capture everything in front of you. Then I moved down to capture this scene in Edinburgh's beautiful Princes Street Gardens. And using the standard lens on each phone, there is very little to actually choose between them. But I fire up that zoom lens and the S22 Ultra again blows its competition out of the water, giving me this beautiful close-up on those old towers and spires that I love so much in this city. Fair to say then that the S22 Ultra has somewhat impressed me with its zoom skills. But these have all been daylight shots when the sun is shining brightly and the city is awash with beautiful colours. So what about when the sun goes down and everything falls into darkness? Well, the differences between the phone's regular lenses becomes a lot more noticeable. In this shot, both the Galaxy S22 Ultra and particularly the Pixel 6 Pro are plagued by this weird brown patch in the bottom of the frame. It's not exactly beautiful, but it's not a problem on the iPhone shot, which has great colours, great exposure, and it's packed with detail. The S22 Ultra has done much better here with a much nicer looking shot than it managed in that boat image. It's got a generally similar colour balance to the iPhone 13 shot this time, but if you zoom into the image you can see that the iPhone does have much better details on those fine parts of the image. Now, whether you'd really notice differences like that when you're just shooting everyday shots is debatable, but when you're spending over $1,000 for these phones, then you're allowed to really nitpick. And nitpick I will. None of the phones are exactly great when it comes to nighttime wide angle. Sure, these images are just about bright enough, but the details are much fuzzier than from the regular lenses, and there is a lot more noticeable image noise. They'll probably do in a pinch just to show off the scene in front of you, but if you want really glorious photos of an ultra-wide cityscape at night, then none of these phones, or really any phone, is going to do it justice. All of the phones do a much better job at night when zooming in though. The S22 Ultra's 3x optical zoom lens and the Pixel 6 Pro's 4x optical zoom lens both did pretty decent jobs in this shot here. However, it's not a particularly strong showing from the iPhone. And of course with the S22 Ultra, you can take that zoom all the way up to 10x optical even when using the night mode. I'm impressed with this shot, particularly considering how much more the phone has to stabilize that shot when using such huge zoom levels. So which phone has really wowed me with its images in this test? Has the S22 Ultra taken the win, or be honest, are you expecting me to tell you that the iPhone 13 Pro is the best of the bunch? Well, to be honest, I've actually found the iPhone to be a little bit disappointing here, with some of its shots being quite cold looking and dark, especially compared to either of its Android rivals. The S22 Ultra's shots have been consistently bright and vibrant and detailed, and of course that zoom has no competition. The iPhone 13 Pro does take a bit of a lead in some nighttime situations, and I would say that for the most part its colours can be more natural looking. Of course, some of that can come down to simple personal preference, and while I might criticise the S22 Ultra's colours for looking a little bit unnatural, you might look at those same shots and actually vastly prefer them, whether they're technically correct or not. But overall, the S22 Ultra has put in a stellar effort here, and it is a superb phone to look towards if you want an incredible all-round photography experience from your phone. And head to the description below to find more information on all three phones. But what do you think to the S22 Ultra? Is it the phone that is enticing you with its photography skills, or are you looking towards its rivals instead? Do make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to keep it Cnet for a lot more.